Okay, folks, just a quick 5-minute warning. Rod's going to get started soon.
Thank you. Hey, Rod, I am sorry to interrupt you, but we cannot hear you on Zoom. Rod, we cannot hear you on Zoom.
Hello.
Hi, John. Rod, we cannot hear you on Zoom.
Hello again.
I'm talking to Rod.
He can't hear you, Mary. The speaker's lectern is muted.
I know, we need to, and I sent a note to Bob.
I did too.
Well, the problem is I'm supposed to give a, make a presentation, which I guess ain't gonna happen.
Well, that may be when they figure it out, is when they can't hear you.
Don't have a picture.
No, he's clapping about something.
Has the meeting begun, Mary?
I think so. I think he's into announcements and stuff.
Okay, because I don't even have a picture of him either. No sound, no picture.
Well, I do have a picture, but I have the lectern, but I don't.
Yeah, he's already started. They've done the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah.
Great. Good start to the new year.
Yep, he started because somebody.
We're talking about golf now.
Yep, we are. Maybe I should yell.
Go ahead, Mary.
Or scream.
I'll do it after Chris is done. I don't want to. Somebody's clock is going off.
That's mine. Funny time for it to be going off.
I suppose we could write our own script and have our own meeting.
Yeah, we could. How's mom and dad, Blair? Everybody doing okay?
Yeah, they're okay.
Good, good.
My sister's in town, so
Oh,
that's pumped them both up, I think.
oh, great, great.
I noticed.
Where does she live?
She's down in Beaufort, South Carolina.
Oh,
Blair, how is your dad okay?
Yeah, he's okay.
Okay. A mutual friend of our brother passed away, and I just wanted to make sure he knew. So I was going to tell him today.
Yeah, if you email him, he'll get it. Or if you want to give me the name, I'll get it to him.
Okay. It's Tony Cancel, Cancel, and he's the brother of Hilton Cancel, and he knows Hilton.
Okay.
That's you, Mary.
Oh, great, finally. Can you all hear me? Okay, great. It is my pleasure. So Rod, have you called up our two people?
They're coming now, Mary.
uh,
Go ahead, Mary.
Okay, and Travis, if you can get on the other side of Rod so that I can see you, I can see Sally. Great. Thank you so much. You know, we've talked about the foundation and the importance of giving to our foundation. And today we want to recognize Travis with a Paul Harris +6 pin and Sally with a Paul Harris +2 pin for their continued, in recognition of their continued giving to the Rotary Foundation. Thank you so much for your contributions. And Rod has your pins, and you give us great examples to follow as we too continue to give to our Rotary Foundation. So let's give a round of applause to our new Paul Harris Plus.
Mary, I don't have a picture now at all. I see you, but I don't see Rod.
Rod or Bob, the lectern is muted.
Yeah.
So we're all-
There we go.
Great. Well, let's again, Travis, Sally, thank you so much for your generosity and support of the Rotary International Foundation. Very happy to, and really it's an honor to recognize your support. So thank you all for that. All right, and Mary, thank you for making that presentation. At this point, our Sergeant at Arms is not here, but I would like to open the floor for any miracle moments. So anyone like to stand up and share a miracle moment? Kristen.
I just want to thank whoever brought the donations for the schools over there. I see you guys are friendly.
No, it wasn't me.
Okay.
I put it out to the little coffee group that I made with, and so those names brought forth this morning.
That is awesome. Thank you so much. If anybody else has donations, feel free to bring them next week, and I will take those and get them in the right hands. So thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Kristen. And by the way, in case you didn't hear, you know, for the district governor's installation banquet, we were invited to provide snacks for school kids. You know that throughout the district, we provided almost 6,000 snack servings for kids in Wayne County schools. So that was really great. Thanks everybody for your contribution. And I dare say that our club had the most contribution. I mean, I had a carload and other people were walking up with 1 or 2 boxes. It was, you know, so we really nailed it. Thanks everybody. Any other miracle moments, Jim?
This past weekend, 3 of us attended the Rotary Leadership Institute faculty training. Bob and Tim and I, and this is a zone 33, 34, which is probably 50 districts there. It's the whole East Coast. We met in Richmond, Virginia, and it was to refresh and look at the new materials for the Rotary Leadership Institute. So out of the district 7710, there were 4 people there. 3 of them were from Cary, so we were well represented. And I would encourage the new members to come see either Tim or Bob or me about Rotary Leadership Institute. It's really should be called Rotary Learning Institute, but it's a great way to learn more about Rotary and meet people from other districts and other clubs.
Great, Jim. Thank you so much. Tim, thank you for being there. Great work. Any other miracle moments? All right. All right, well, thank you all for that. Well, at this point, I am delighted to welcome our speaker here, and I'll ask Bill Fletcher to come up and make an introduction.
Thank you, President Rod.
Don't run, don't run.
I want to run as much as I can, Tim.
Sheldon Jones is our guest speaker today, and I met Sheldon. Frankly, he was a real estate referral to me. So that's how I met him, from a mutual friend in Chicago. And I had you folks may not know, but at one point in time, I thought I wanted to be a veterinarian. And then I wanted to be a turkey farmer. And then my grades taught me out of one, and my wife taught me out of the other. So, but I've always had an interest in agriculture. And I met Sheldon and heard about his passion. He grew up in Arizona on his family ranch. Let me see my little notes here. From 1997 to 2002, he was director of the Arizona Department of Agriculture. Then he went on to be the executive president of the Agribusiness and Water Council of Arizona. And then he went on to be the deputy commissioner of the Colorado Department of Agriculture. So he's got a steep experience in the ag world. He was also vice president at the Farm Foundation from 2008 to 2016, where he oversaw all the foundation's financial operations. He now serves as the chief operating officer of the Soil Health Institute. Now, I'm going to mess up one of his stories, but it's my understanding that this whole shebang started because the organic people and the agrochemical people couldn't get along. And one day they wound up sitting on an airplane together, and out of that came the conversation that created the Soils Health Institute. And that's what I remember you telling me 6 years ago. I'm not sure how much of that is still true, but please welcome to tell us about our soil. After all, it's under everything we do, Sheldon Jones.
Okay, thank you, Bill. It's really glad to be here. It's really an opportunity. At my watch, Bill said there's a hard stop, I think at like 1:28. And so I want to make sure I leave a little time for some questions. But yeah, it was 6 years ago, the 22nd of July at 16, that Bill got us involved with a house here in Apex. And so we've been here right at 6 years now. And so I would like to just have a raise of hands, like to know who I'm talking to. How many of you are North Carolina natives? Bill, I think that's about half. About half. Of those who are not, how many of you are from east of the Mississippi River? And how many of you are from west of the Mississippi River? Good. Colorado, great state of Colorado. Politics aside. So it's a pleasure to be here. Bill, thank you for asking me to come in and visit. So what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about the Institute, where we got started. It is kind of an interesting story. I'm going to have a series of slides. I don't know about you, but there's a few things that irritate me more. But one thing that irritates me is having somebody stand up here talking to you, reading on what's on the slide. And I'm going to do a little bit of that to make sure I don't mess something up, pardon my language. Otherwise, feel free to do that as I kind of talk to you what the Institute's all about. So as Bill mentioned, if this thing will go one up, down there. Got to be smarter than the one. Can I go back and start over? So Bill was right. Back when I was with Farm Foundation, it's a kind of a, they won't want me to say this, a think tank, a thought leadership nonprofit, solely formed in 1934 around agricultural policy at the, through the Dust Bowl and coming out of the Depression and all that, about how do we put underpinnings to ag and ag policy and have a strong agriculture. So one of the many projects we had back in 2008, 2009, 10, 11 was what we called our Dialogue Project. We had sat down and realized that there wasn't a strategic plan for North American agriculture. It's hard to talk about US ag without involving our North American continental partners in Mexico and Canada. And so we had about 6 different topics that we were talking about. What does the future hold on the impacts to ag and how do we leverage that? One of them was obviously technology with biotech and then CRISPR and all this stuff coming on, data management and all this big data stuff. technology. So I kind of manage that technology. And as Bill said, we had organic farmers. We had then president of Bayer Crop Science here at RTP, Bill Buckner. Some of you may know Bill. It's all about what we can do for you out of a bug in the jug or otherwise. And the organic guy said, no, leave it to me. I know what's best. We don't believe in all that stuff. And so at the end of the day, 3 or 4 years, after that initial conversation, it was all about the soil, whether you're organic, conventional, like biotech crops, don't like it. It's how do we manage the soil that's 6 inches underneath our feet that we all live, eat, buy. And so how do we get our arms around that? So for about 4.5 years, we brought in scientists, we brought in the seed company, the biotech, entomologists, agribusiness people, seed, fertilizer, ... agribusiness, and talked about what is there a role that an independent organization could play in bringing all these diversified groups out around science and soil health and how we take care of that most basic problem. And the answer was after 4.5, 5 years, yes. And so I left Farm Foundation in June 30th or June 1, I guess, in 16. There's 4 of us, president he was with USDA, Natural Resource Conservation Service, the Natural Resource Research Lead for the Agriculture Research Service in BC. They were the CEO and chief scientific officer respectively. I'm the business guy. And then we had as assistant, kind of a fundraising guy. So we've gone from 4 people in 2016. I just onboarded our 20th full-time person, and we have 6 part-time over the summer. And we currently have 5 interns at the office for the next couple of weeks. We've been out taking soil samples all summer. So anyway, we've grown, Bill, we've making some progress. And so you may have looked at this. That's our Soil Health Institute mission, is to safeguard and enhance the vitality and productivity of soils through scientific research and advancement. The rest of that is kind of how we go about doing that, bringing circling the wagons around, again, landowners, organic, conventional, otherwise, small, large, doesn't matter to us. If you're using aquaculture or hydroponics, we don't have much to talk about. So if it's soil-based, right, that's what we're about. So then this is how we define soil health as the capacity of soil to function as the vital living ecosystem that sustains plants, animals, and humans. This is relatively universal. This is not unique to SHI, the Natural Resources Conservation Service, Nature Conservancy, National Association of Conservation Districts, agconservation.com, pretty much universal definition around what is soil health. You don't see, it's not fertilizer, it's not NPK that you see in a fertilizer bag for your yard at home. It's about the combination, the balance between physical, chemical, and biological attributes, functions, if you will, of soil. So what we like to say, or have said, and it kind of got lost in all of the banter and the growth and fast-paced nature that we've been working under, but the whole concept of the Soil Health Institute initially was to make soil the cornerstone of land management decisions. Whether you're construction, whether you're building homes, building freeways, highways, that runoff, that erosion, waterways, impact on species, impact on the landscape, it's all important. How you manage that soil, not just in agriculture or farming, but it has its role. And so our areas of focus, we just went through our second strategic plan in 6 years. Those are always processes that we're glad to be over. I think you've all been through those before, but anyway, we have 5 major areas of focus. Again, kind of central around land management, soil being the heart of land management decision. So those 5 areas: climate change, big deal, right? Whether you talk about the cause of it or not, step outside, I think it was 93 degrees when I drove in at 11:55 a while ago. Things are changing a little bit. Regenerative agriculture, we equate soil health to be the cornerstone of what regenerative agriculture is all about. Water resources, how you manage your soil has a huge impact on how your water responds or how it treats your soil when you get some, or when you're applying it intentionally through irrigation. Farmer empowerment, farmers trust farmers. You may not trust your neighbor over the fence. There may be some basis for that. I grew up in the cattle business in Arizona. You didn't sell replacement heifers to your neighbor. because Arizona is a brand law state, everything had to be identified. You sold a branded heifer to your neighbor, that cow would live 60 years. Because about every 8-9 years, it'd come get another one, right? And so anyway, I digress. So you don't sell heifers to your neighbor. But farmer empowerment is a big deal. We only have about, don't quote me on this, but I think that our numbers are in the I states or the central main corn and soybean areas, big opportunities for adoption by farmers of soil health practices. There's about a 10% of the farmers are fully engaged in regenerative ag or cover crops or no-till or other operations that are benefited, positive to the soil. We have a long way to go. And farmer empowerment is a way to do that. Farmers who do it, taking their time to educate their neighbors in the other county, maybe family is last on that. Their next door neighbor may be in the middle, but farmer empowerment we find is a huge opportunity. And then again, the consumer. If you don't think the consumer doesn't have a role in driving what they want to eat and how it's produced, just go say something stupid and see what Twitter says about it. And so you can understand that consumer demand is meaningful in today's market. So those are kind of 5 areas of focus. So what have we done in the last 6 years as the Soil Health Institute? So this says business case. The business side of me appreciates that being first, but you can put in there, i.e. economics. Because if we learn anything at all from farmers, and I haven't been one, if it doesn't make sense in the pocketbook, then it's convinced me why I need to be doing this. And so we've done a lot of work supported largely to a large extent by the big box folks who want to say that let's throw a name out there, Cheerios or whatever is produced on regenerative ag or soil health managed farms. And so they want to know, can we collect the box for the farmer that it makes sense for him, that we can drive that adoption of those practices? And the answer is yes. You can read it there's out, we did this study on 100 farms across 9 states, primarily corn and soy country, had some rotation crops in there, but of the 100 farmers, 85% of them on corn and 88% on soybeans. And this was after about a 3-year trial and error, find out what works for you. But after three years or so, though 85, 88% respectively had a better bottom line than they did before. We did the similar thing recently in cotton and found 100% of the farmers interviewed there and looking at what numbers they would share with us. Farmers are pretty vocal about that. But they were making over $100 an acre more on their cotton by using cover crops, by managing the soil, keeping it covered, keeping living root there, and not tilling it any more than you have to. And cotton is a hard crop on the soil to begin with, just because they measure the crop. So economics, we're checking some boxes. Not a final last word on everything, but it does show promise. And so next, it's measurement. You all know that if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. Right? And so we don't have, and I say we affectionately as a society around the globe, do not have a comprehensive, peer-reviewed or agreeable, bought into process for how you measure soil. And so one of the first things we did back in 2017, laid the framework for a large grant, funded half by private money, half by the Foundation for Food Bank Research that was founded in the 2014 Farm Bill to match private money to get ag research back into the mainstay. So anyway, we did a continental scale project, 122 agriculture sites that had to have at least 10 years of management data where they could say, we manage this piece of ground this way and this other piece of ground this way. And you can see of those 31 soil health measurements, which of those, and again, this covered the physical, chemical, biological traits, functions of soil, several different methods for each different attribute. So these are we had, I don't know, 25, 30 scientists from around the world, had guys from Brazil and Europe come in, and all the literature reviews they could do and all that. There's 31 different measurements. And so we tested all of those on 124 sites across North America and had over 20, I think it was 2,200 soil samples that we processed over the course of a couple of years. Anyway, so next week, no, I'm sorry, that's not right. The 11th and 12th of August, We're having our virtual annual meeting. It's our third annual meeting in the virtual nature, given the COVID. We've met the first several years around the country, Sacramento, Louisville, Albuquerque, and I'm St. Louis. And then lastly, this will be the third one that's virtual. August 11th and 12th. It's free. It's a webinar, 10 to 3, each the 11th and 10 to 3 on the 12th. If you would like to learn a little more about what I'm talking about here, part of it may be a little more scientific on the 12th, more business approach, and several of our large corporate and farmers responded to the work. And then we kind of get into the meat of some of this. But we're going to announce our slate of soil health measurements that we've been working with the Natural Resource Conservation Service of USDA. They have 7. We're suggesting it doesn't have to be that much. They're repeatable. They're known or qualified to respond to management practices. If you do or don't do X, Y, and Z, you can tell if you are or you aren't by this slate of indicators of soil health. And so, yeah, we partner with 100 scientists at universities, USDA, ASFC is the Canadian Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, and then CIMMYT, many of you may be familiar with Norman Borlaug, the Green Revolution, saved 1 billion people on how to hybridize wheat at his location based in Mexico. They did our Mexican work for us. Anyway, it's a big deal. From the business side of me, I think we could have been here a few years ago and then come out this next month and said, we were right or we were wrong and this is what it ought to be, but we were close. But until the papers are written and the peers reviewed in and all that stuff takes its place from an academic point of view, we're comfortable in doing that. But anyway, we're there. And like I said, I've been at this for almost 10 years. This is really music to my ears or a visual for my eyes to see that we're actually going to come out and put a stake in the ground on this. So it's meaningful. Farmer education outreach, again, can't overstate this enough. A lot of farmers out there, the tide is turning, but this group of folks for the last several years had been Farm Bureau presidents, or maybe had been Rotary Club leaders, or other community lead school board members. Well, as a recovering school board member.
School board.
Yeah. Recovering. I'm glad I'm not one today in this environment. I just leave it at that. But this farmer impact is huge. And so these folks have been, I said, leaders, but they've been somewhat ostracized because you go drive down their farm in November outside of Des Moines, Iowa, and they've got stuff. They left all their corn or all their soybean refuse in there, and they may have planted something else in there. Those fields for decades were plowed under, disked under. You couldn't see anything. If there's got a blade of grass, it'd get the disc out and tear it up again. And that smell you smell in the spring, when anybody ever till a field after it's been fallow all winter, that rich smell of turning soil, talk about carbon, that's what you're smelling, and that's where it's going. And so you don't want to do that. And so for decades, throw nitrogen out in the summer and plow it under in the winter. Worst thing you can do. The more plow is the worst thing we ever did from an ag policy perspective. And so getting farmers to turn the corner, those that did were ostracized, voted out as Farm Bureau presidents. Go to their little coffee clutch at the little cafe. No, they said, no, we better find a different cafe. And so that tide's turning. People are understanding why they're leaving their fields dirty in the winter. Why now they're bringing cattle back to farms. It used to be ditch bank or fence to fence, and then went from road to road. The fences are coming back in Midwest because livestock is a component of soil health is important. So we can't undervalue this. And so we've done a lot of work reaching, you can read the numbers there, farmers on understanding soil health systems. That's one of our scientists, Diana Bagnall from Texas, now lives in Illinois. But we've touched a lot of people. We've done a lot of training for CCAs, crop advisors, certified crop advisors. Each one of them touch around 20,000 acres on average in the United States. And so we've trained a whole bunch of them on the concepts. They reach out to that many acres. So, trust the numbers or not, extrapolate and think, God, we're doing big things. But anyway, we're making an impact, and that's all positive. I'm gonna hurry up, Bill, because I like to talk too much. On the key impacts on research, talked about water. The water holding capacity of soil is directly in relation to the amount of its carbon and or organic matter. And we've proven scientifically that as you, and there's a graph, I don't think it's in there, but as you increase that organic matter, carbon, the water retention value, water holding capacity of that soil is exponential. And so that means two things. One, if you don't get very much, your soil holds on to what it gets, or conversely, it's a sponge. When you do get it, even in storms like we get now, instead of having an inch or two, you get 3 or 4 inches at a time. There's farmers in North Carolina that we've been on, and South Carolina, Georgia, and even some in the Midwest, where they can have one of those major summer events of 4 or 5 inches of rain on any given afternoon, and they can have tractors or whatever in those fields the next day. Their neighbor would log up, you may or may not see the cab sticking out of the mud puddle. It works. We just have to get people to understand. We did do the microbiome, similar thing, that tillage, plowing, disking, heavy deep ripping, whatever, has a direct impact on the microbiome in the soil. And it's that living organism you have to keep fed, have to keep living, critically important, and we've been killing it for a long time. And then we did do, back in 2018, we had a soil health, human health conference trying to make the connection between healthy soils to what the nutritional health value of food. There were 10, we had 200 or 300 people there, all PhDs, I think, most of them. They came out of there with 10, we had 10 breakout groups. Each one had a different idea. But there's 10 priorities for advancing how we make those connections. A lot of people want to talk about this. There's increasing research about this. We just haven't found the right nexus with the right funder to advance those, but it hasn't gone away and it's increasingly important. Communications and community education, again, the outreach to the consumer to understand that there are things farmers can do. Some of them are doing that. It's not a battle between conventional and organic. In fact, organic is not the most soil friendly because they don't use chemicals to terminate crops or to terminate weeds. They use tillage. And so they're working against themselves. And so there's room, everybody has a role to play here on how we can come to the table and meet consumer demand. Key policy impacts. This slide is a little bit upside down. Again, we're a 501c3 public charity. I choose to say that we inform, we don't influence. But we did have an opportunity in 2018 to brief both, this says Congress, right, good, because it should be both House and Senate, Ag or Natural Resources and Environment Committees on the fundamentals of soil health. That impacted in the top one, is there a light on here? I went back. In the top one, they're about to analyze the impact. In the 2018 budget, Farm Bill, soil health was mentioned, had 60 different provisions, had never been mentioned in a previous Farm Bill. That's short as 4 years, 2014. Soil health wasn't mentioned. In the 2018 Farm Bill, it had 60 different provisions in the Farm Bill related to how different USDA agencies had to involve themselves in soil health. We then went up and briefed most of those committees. We put this book together. Most of them didn't even realize what was in the Farm Bill. And so we went and told them what it was that they ought to be doing. And by the way, if you have some money to help you do that, we'd be happy to talk to you about that too. So now, what are we doing today? Two big things. $5 million 5-year program working with the U.S. cotton industry, funded by a major label, Ralph Lauren, actually. And now Levi Strauss is getting involved and Walmart is getting involved. Started out as intended to be a 9-state along the cotton belt. North Carolina is one of those. My home state of Arizona is not, but I keep jumping up and down. You can't tell that from where you're at, but this is me studying up. And so we started out with 4, with Levi's coming on. We're now into the 5 cotton states. We're working through those focus areas that tie back to our strategic plan. Working with have a farmer mentor program, doing the targets marketing, targets on where are you on the scale, and the farmer outreach and to Walmart and that directly impacted all of them. You know, if you don't buy the products, they don't have a market. And so the consumer side of it is part of this as well. Then this is the whole concept of targets. I said if you can measure it, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And so what? Right? So you go to the doctor, I weigh 220 pounds and I'm 5'7". I know don't throw anything at me besides meatloaf and potatoes. And so that's where I'm at. Is that where I should be? No, my doctor tells me you need to be like 185 and you know, you're not too overweight, you're just under tall. That's what I think. But so where are you on this spectrum of where can you be? We don't know that. And so the concept of having a target of where going out and finding virgin or undisturbed locations, we boiled some 4,000 different soil types in the United States down to 200 that have similar likenesses that respond to management practices the same, can be tested the same way, to go out and find what is the target for those 200 different soil types in the United States. So you can give a farmer, landowner, land manager, here's where you are today, here's where your best information we have, this is what your potential is. And you do this, this, and this, and this, probably will help you get to there. Very good, right? Everybody think that's good? That's a good thing? I'm gonna put my regulation hat on. If you can measure it, monitor it, validate it, test it, you can regulate it. And so if we don't take good care of this in a volunteer-based incentive-based program, that's the auto manufacturers, how if we can build a 42 mile an hour gas miles per gallon vehicle, we'll do that because we're nice guys. No, we'll do that because if you don't have a car dealership or car business anymore. Anyway, I digress again. So that's about the target piece. And then the other big project, we're just into the end of the, you don't have to end this, but then you may know this. I'm going to stop, Bill, so we have a few minutes for questions. The dairy industry collectively across the United States has come out publicly announced, we want to be net zero carbon emissions by, I believe it's 2035. They set a 2021 goal to reduce it by 25%. They more than met that. And so then Bill said, we can do this, take it to net zero. We won't emit anymore, whether it's cow methane, whether it's transportation of the truck to get the milk to the barn, or get the milk to the grocery store. We're gonna have the dairy industry be zero emission on carbon. And so we've undertaken with a number of these partners across the country. I think there's 8 dairies, 5 research farms, and an almond grower orchard in California. God love California. Anyway, it's a good thing, big thing. This is a $6 million 6-year project. We're doing all the soil health measurements and targets as a part of that, with a little bit on economics, but it's less on economics and more about expanding our understanding of soil health measurements and the targets, and how does this help them on the carbon side to know that they are sequestering that carbon that they're emitting, and it's all coming back to net zero in 2035. It's a big deal. You'll probably hear a lot about this as we get closer to that because of it has a huge public impact. So I've talked really fast and try not to talk off the slides. And I wanted to thank Bill and Bob and Rob, all of you, for the opportunity. And so we have about, I think, 8 minutes for questions. Yes, sir.
When I look at typical fertilizer, it's potassium and nitrogen, but I don't see carbon. Wouldn't that be something good to add to it? Keeping carbon in it?
Yeah, carbon is old plants, old bones, old pieces of living things. And there's a huge industry out there adding biochemicals, bio additives to, whether it's biochar, which is wood burnt down to a crisp and it lasts for a long time, doesn't erode, but there's a lot of products out there to do that. Unlike the chemical or pharma biochem industry, there's no efficacy requirements. There's no, if you say that you do this, you're going to gain 10 pounds of production. You can make all the claims you want to. There's no, all they got in the 2018 Farm Bill when it comes to those kind of additives is they defined what they were. There's no regulation. So there's a lot of people out there. Some swear they work. Some farmers said they do. Some farmers are suing people because they didn't. There's no basis for that because they didn't make any, there's no test for their claims. But yes, the best way to do that is naturally. Don't take the corn stalks off. Don't take the soybean residue off. Don't take the cotton. Leave it there. Let the microbes do their thing and add that. The top 6 or 8 inches recycles carbon. It's just natural. Plants take it up, pull it in from the sun. But as you kind of like a bank account, the longer you save, the deeper it goes, the bigger your bank account gets, and further down that carbon will go. And that's sequestering the carbon. The bad news is you can get deep ripper pull through there, you just lost out your bank account. The best way to do that's natural that we know of today. Yes, ma'am.
How do you define regenerative agriculture? Define regenerative agriculture.
Yeah, we don't.
Okay.
We define it soil health. Is that somebody else's term? And it's like sustainability a few years ago. You get this table together with the 5 of you and ask you what sustainability is, you know, there'll be 8 answers. And so regenerative ag is kind of the same way. It's whatever you want it to be, whatever your mantra might be about it. And so we just said, look, the principles of soil health get us to that regenerative ag, no till, keep it covered, let it grow, keep the roots in there. Take that cover crop, chop it or whatever, leave it there, plant back into it, green plant into it, and let it do its thing and add that organic matter naturally. So we don't define it because it's not our term. We have an answer to what we think makes the connection to take it forward, but we've not tried to define it. We would define it as soil health. Yes, sir.
So as a takeaway on this, don't till my garden in the fall or the winter or the spring.
Yeah, you could mow it and let all that stuff lay down if you want to do. You don't want to look at it standing
So
up,
just
but don't till it under.
No, okay,
Yeah, don't turn it with a shovel.
less work.
Yes, sir.
Erosion is a very serious problem here.
Well, we're trying to address that. If you increase the carbon, increase the water holding capacity, it not only holds, if you hold the soil, you'll hold the nutrients. And a large part of this whole crux of this back, 10 years ago, was the whole hypoxia issue in the Gulf of Mexico. Every year when it starts getting warm, you talk about the dead zone. You'll see all these geospatial pictures and aerial pictures of the big dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico where the Mississippi River runs into the ocean. And it's largely nutrients coming off of farms. And so to try to, lot of money being thrown to Iowa and Illinois and other states along the Mississippi to control that. Healthy soil is the best way you're going to do that. That coupled with don't over fertilize. And so the Fertilizer Institute and the fertilizer industry has what they call the 5 Rs: right place, right time, right rate, right product. And so they fought us tooth and nail back in 2013, 14, that you can't do this. You're attacking fertilizer. You're going to cut our sales. And my business approach to that was, yep. But guess what? You need to become a service-oriented company or industry, not a sales product-oriented company. Help your farmers understand how they use your products and make us all better for it. And they're huge partners today. So yeah, it's a big lift, but we can help answer that. No panacea. Yes, sir.
Partner with NC State University, and if so, you partner with NC State, and if so, what's that?
Yeah, we do. NC State has a really great program. And that's a little bit of institute, not that you don't try. We're national, continental, and nothing here that we're proving can't go global, if you will. And so we have the cotton industry piece we're doing, and they're solely focused on North Carolina. So where we can make that bridge and connection, there's some really good researchers and scientists at NC State. I sit on the North Carolina Biotech Council's Ag Division Technical Advisory Committee. And so I engage with the dean of NC State, the new dean, I guess are going through interviews right now, and the dean at NCANT and others. But so it's a start. Is it where I think it ought to be? No. My mantra, and that's why, Bill, I appreciate the invitation here, is we may fancy ourselves as national and continental, and eventually global. Got to be good neighbors at home, right? I grew up in a small town, graduated 68 kids in my class, and so it's all about being a good neighbor.
Sheldon, I
volunteer. Thank you. Good, thank you. You needed to do that because I fell asleep at the watch.
That's all right. We'd like to give a minute to get out. But on behalf of our club, we have a very special gift because it was originated by one of our members, Jerry Miller, and it seems around Cary. It's notepad. So hopefully, even though you're in Marsville.
Well, I live in Apex, which is actually Cary, but yeah, we call it K-Pex. It's all K-Tex free.
Sheldon, thank you so much. Appreciate that. As I mentioned, Rotary has 7 areas of key impact, and the environment is one of those. Clearly, soil health has a key impact on the health of our environment, and we appreciate the work that you're doing. we look forward to talking with you further about potential ways that we can collaborate. So appreciate the very pragmatic research and metrics-based approach that you're all taking. So thank you all. Bill, thank you for our speaker. In closing, let me mention we have some special birthdays and anniversaries. Today, July 19th, is Hal Jordan's birthday. So if you have Hal Jordan in your phone, break out your phone and send him a happy birthday text. Also today, July 19th, is Tony and Sharon Withers. They celebrate their 42nd wedding anniversary. And John Rigsby, is he here today or online? July 24th, John and Paula Rigsby celebrate their 46th wedding anniversary. So be sure to pass along or remind them of that. Next week's program, Kristen Sutton will be introducing Lisa Bruska, who is the Executive Director of Wheels for Hope, a very strong, impactful nonprofit right here in our community addressing hunger and actually access to transportation. So thank you for that. Next week's meal, don't miss it, will be a delightful plated dish or the salad bar, which you can choose from. So look forward to that. Our program in that means I don't know. The program in 2 weeks, Pat Hudson, you'll be introducing Dr. Fisher from Research Farms. We look forward to that presentation. With that, again, Sheldon, let me thank you for being here. We really appreciate your time and the information you shared. I want to thank Scott for stepping in for Paul Wazelkavich, our secretary. You know, Paul is doing service right now, supporting our electoral process, and we're grateful for that. Scott, thank you for empowering him. As always, huge thanks to Bob Griffin, not only for a tremendous year of service last year as our president, but for keeping us online and hybrid. And Bob, thank you. We appreciate your IT support there. Sally, we appreciate your being here. We look forward to talking to you further, and thank you for joining our club meeting today. With that, let me invite Van Starling to lead us out in the 4-way test. Van.
They say it's true. It's fair to all concerned. Will that our friendships will be beneficial to all concerned.
Well, he is. He had to bug out of that too.